Hello everyone, it's lunchtime here at eVTOL Insights North American Conference in Palo Alto. Delighted to be joined by industry expert Robin Riedel, partner at McKinsey and Company. Robin, thank you for joining us. We had a brilliant presentation with you and Sergio earlier today. How are you finding the event so far?
Well, thanks for having me. I mean, so far it's just great to reconnect with many of the leaders in the industry. It's a unique time, I think, for our industry in that we're trying to scale up. We're actually seeing some more consolidation. We're seeing some new problems arise. We're seeing some, just new threats emerging. And so it's great to get together with people, and you have all the right people in the room here.
Very kind of you to say, Robin. And as I said, had a fascinating conversation with you and Sergio about the market 2025, what we could see on the horizon. And you made some really excellent points about China, the Middle East, the regulatory challenges as well. Are you able to kind of a little bit elaborate on some of the points you were making to those of our audience at home that weren't able to be here today?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's an exciting time because we're coming up to about a year, maybe a year and a half from commercial service in the Western world. And so we're shifting from, building prototypes and telling stories about, the far future and getting into actually operationalizing. How do we actually manufacture? How do we actually operate? What are kind of the things to get that last mile done? And at the same time, with that comes the question of just the global geopolitical environment that we're in. And, the Chinese, as I mentioned this morning, are having a very vibrant eVTOL industry and doing quite a bit also on the drone side. And so there's a bit of a question around, okay, do we as the Western world, need to take them more serious as competition? And what does that mean? They're starting to fly commercially, gaining experience. And while they might not sell their aircraft into North America, they're probably going to sell them into Africa, Southeast Asia, Europe. And to what degree is that something we need to be concerned about and really kind of think about that competing field emerging?
Yeah, very much so. And I think another really interesting point you mentioned in your conversation with Sergio was the funding side of things. Are you able to sort of again touch upon that as well? Because it's something that I don't think our audience kind of realises just the big thing too.
I mean, funding for this industry is a fascinating topic. I mean, the one thing I mentioned this morning is 2024 was actually a great year for eVTOL funding. Even though I think the general sentiment would be, oh no, it was a horrible year. Well, why is that? Well, because people think, a couple of companies over there, Lilium, Volocopter didn't get funding, and so as a result ran into trouble. Whereas, there was actually double the funding in 24 than there was in 23, right? It just went to, on the one hand, a few leaders, expanding, Joby Archer, Beta, to be mentioned there, and then a lot of it went to China. And there's dozens of Chinese players that we don't actually look at every day, like we do on the Western players, but that are, in the tens and hundreds of millions of dollars in funding and, flying on a daily basis prototypes and getting ready to manufacture.
Perfect. Robin, always a pleasure having you with us as well. Thank you for sharing your market insights.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you.